Ready?
Yeah.
Because we've been rolling anyway. So this is the first episode of another shitty real estate podcast that nobody's going to listen to.
This is probably going to end up in a bargain bin at somebody's yard sale.
Nobody goes to yard sales. But really what we want to do is, this is our first time. We're just sitting down. We're going to go through a couple things. We're just going to have a conversation. We do something called the Monday meeting every morning we sit down and we talk. Mm-hmm. We go through what's going on in real estate, what sucks about real estate, how we want to change careers. I want to hang myself. You talk me off the ledge.
This is true. And typically we have these conversations in parking lots while we're driving around.
Yeah.
My preferred spot of doling out wisdom is the gym parking lot while I'm not working out and talking about real estate poorly.
So with doing podcast stuff, what do you think we should make this podcast about? Because everybody says to do a podcast, and then they do it, and what happens is people just do it once or twice. It sucks. What should this be about? So what do you think this podcast should be about?
We should talk about all things real estate. We should talk about rates. We should say how now is always the best time to buy a house. We should say things like marry the house and date the rate.
I do. It's great advice.
We could talk about buying white Mercedes.
Anything else?
We could talk about what paid awards we win.
So you got to pay to play in this business. But really, I kind of want to start. I want to say, what do we hate about? Because I want to make this the opposite. It's like George from Seinfeld. Like I want to do the complete opposite of what everybody else is doing.
So what do we love about real estate?
Oh, no. But like what? So we look at what the landscape is as far as the real estate podcast world. There's a couple bigger ones. I don't know how in-depth podcast you get into. What's something you hate about other podcasts?
I don't really listen to podcasts, so I guess I hate that I don't listen to them.
I mean,
or I hate myself.
It's a good thing we're doing one then. So radio shows, things like that. What are some things that you don't like hearing when you if you take the time and you're going to listen to somebody? Mm-hmm. The worst thing that I feel like you can do is turn it on, have them go on about who they are, what they do, and they offer literally nothing. Like it's a complete waste of your time. You can listen to it in double time, and it's a waste of your time.
I guess I want to feel entertained, no matter what I'm giving any sort of time and attention to. Entertained or educated.
So this is where we're going to lose everybody because we suck. This is not entertaining at all right now.
No.
It's a dark, like it's a room that's got nothing in it. It's very echoey right now. Mm-hmm. It's going to come through. We got shitty audio.
Like a bomb shelter.
We got a microphone that's not hooked up. It's there for looks. So what are some things that you do listen to? Like do you do any of the, so you say you don't listen to podcasts. What are some of the things that we do listen to? You go first. I'll go after because I do listen to a ton. At least the first 5 minutes of them. It's
really just music.
We got to get the copyright to do that for this show. So maybe we'll get more into music later. But so I listen to all types of podcasts. Well, before we started this, I wanted to audit and look at what the South Jersey local real estate podcast scene looks like. We could take a look at that, and we'll do that when we're not recording. But how do we make this worth listening to without people hating it? So like the 5 people besides my mom, hey mom, that will watch this or see it or take the time to actually get past the first 3 minutes. How do we make it worth listening for them so they won't hate it?
There's got to be some sort of entertainment value or some sort of educational value. Or we could take the low road and just go for polarizing and shock value.
Done. We should. That's what gets clicks, right? Mm-hmm. That's what makes it fun. All right, so that being said, you got to have a podcast name because we can't just come on here and just try to get people entertained without a nice hook on a name. What's a name that's going to put some asses in the seats? Besides like Tom and Omar talk about real estate, which is insanely dumb. Don't say that.
I think it's a great name.
Don't say that.
I love it.
Don't say that.
It's like a lightning bolt just struck my nether regions.
Well, this is an NSFW, is what they say. That's what the kids say.
Yeah.
It's a not safe for work podcast that we're going to make on real estate.
How about House at Hangin?
That's not bad. All right, come up with like You're good with this, with puns. What's
That I am.
That's punny. Give me like 2 or 3 that you're thinking about.
Pontificating real estate.
So house at Hangin. I'm gonna write these down because
And these are all copyrighted.
house at Hangin. What's the other one? Pontificating real estate.
Yeah.
Give me something else.
For sale by Omar.
I mean, that's great for you, but not doing much for me. For sale by Omar. That's not bad. If you were by yourself and you just wanted to sit here, that'd be great. I already put my name in that. What about I got one. Nobody gives a fuck about your shitty real estate podcast. Nobody cares about your real estate podcast because that would be what I would think when I go to look at it. And I would actually, by law of telling people that I hate it, think about actually listening to it.
Or we could really go between the eyes and say another shitty podcast about real estate that you probably don't want to listen to.
Save yourself the 5 minutes.
Don't listen to this shitty real estate podcast.
Yeah.
Please don't listen to this shitty real estate podcast.
Nobody is, so we don't have to tell them. Nobody's listening to it. We got to think of something.
But if we tell them not to, then they will.
That's
It's
the way it
reverse
goes.
psychology.
Yeah. And you try to get people to show up to listing appointments, to showings, and it just goes off the rails real quick. So let's see. So I got a list here. And we don't know the format of the show, so if you have ideas, everybody that's listening, drop them in the comments or tell us what you want to hear.
Smash that like button.
Don't smash the like button. That's not cool anymore. People do that. I've got a little ding, like the little
Smash
pop-up, the little pop-up that everybody has when you're doing like the reels for it. It's like ding.
Smash it.
Put a little bell above my head. So let's see. So we got For Sale by Omar, House at Hangin. What about my previous one? Game of Homes. We can bring that one back. It's very topical now that Game of Thrones has been off the air for like 6 years.
We're like lame in homes. Lame of homes.
We can't use that one.
There's something right there.
We'll figure something out.
I'm like peeing on the toilet seat with that one.
We'll figure something out. So, real estate news. So let's do that first, and then we got some other stuff that is going to be more fun to get into. But real estate news for the week. Everybody's going to ask you what you think about the rates. So, this week's rateometer.
Rates are high. Inventory's low. That's it. That's the recap. We can think of clever, snarky ways to convey that, but rates are high and inventory's low.
How high are they?
Like Snoop Dogg, The Chronic.
So are they coming down?
A little bit. I'm seeing 6s right now with
Cool.
no points.
Cool. So realistically for people, because we're going to joke about this stuff, we're not going to take it's not going to be a serious podcast, but we do want to give a little bit of information. So we're not going to try to keep it super, super long, but we do want to make sure that you get something for your time and you're not just going to waste your time once and never listen again, like most of the podcasts that are out there. What would you say for people? So as far as dropping a value bomb on somebody, giving somebody an idea of they don't need to move right now. Mm-hmm. Is now a good time to move?
No.
What would base on, so if somebody is in a spot right now, when would you say it is a good time to start to dig in and find out?
If they need to move, if they need to move, then now.
Okay.
If there's a need, then you do it, regardless of cost. If there isn't a need, then you don't do it. Now, within that, if somebody needs to, that's where we now come into play, and our talent and our skill set is to figure out the most effective, the most cost-effective way, the most efficient manner to move. And that doesn't matter what the economy is. It's just based on, do you need to or do you not need to? Over the past, there were situations where sometimes financially, even if you weren't thinking about moving, there was financial reward in doing so through the channels of appreciation, getting a lot for the home that you're currently in, and money being cheap. So it produced a unique opportunity to almost from like an investment standpoint, even if you're talking about your regular owner occupant, but that does not exist right now.
Okay. So I guess we got to take the time. We'll figure it out. But something I'd like to do, because you have a vast knowledge. My knowledge is also vast, just not in real estate. But you have a lot of knowledge as far as where you came from. So every good superhero has an origin story. Mm-hmm. Do you have a superhero name, by the way? Do you create yourself a superhero name?
It is...
Be honest. All the people that are listening, they need to be honest.
I do not.
I don't either. I should be I do have a weatherman name.
Yeah.
Tommy Tsunami. Because if I was going to be a meteorologist, because it seemed like the easiest job, like when I was in college, it seemed like the best way to do it. But Tommy Tsunami was the name I would go with. Do you have a weatherman name?
Typhoon Omar. I devastated the Philippines a few years ago. Ripped through with a force that was never seen. It's the stuff of legends.
Origin story. Tell me, not in excruciating detail, but looking through it and telling me kind of what you, where you started. Why did you start real estate? What was your motivating factor behind it? And then what was your path to be successful? Because every time somebody for anybody that's starting out right now, real estate can really, really suck to start out. You can make a ton of money, but you can also make nothing. And I kind of want to know, what's your, if you had to start over now, you had no contacts, you're a brand new agent, you're I did the course, I'm taking the spot. We'll kind of do that after, but I want to hear what you started with, why did you start real estate?
Okay. So prior to real estate, I was a personal trainer, and I hit a ceiling with my income. And also, it was too heavily dictated by what the economy was doing.
Not like real estate at all then.
Yeah, exactly. But it was probably more severe of an impact.
Okay. Because the first thing you would cut is personal, you would cut the extra stuff. You're not going to cut your house. You're going to cut right. I'm not really using that,
Yeah, and not even so much that. It's, you have to eat. You have to drink water. It's debatable if you have to have a place to live. It sure makes life a little easier.
You got friends that live somewhere, you can always live with them.
Yeah. So if somebody stopped working with their personal trainer, life still went on. They weren't going to die that day necessarily. So it was something that was...
Remember, the heart disease will kill you. It's a silent killer.
It can. So are podcasts that no one listens to.
Well, it's killing me slowly.
With this song. So ultimately, I needed... I was a new father, somewhat recently married, so I needed more to be able to have more of a life that I wanted to provide for my family, and also long-term savings and being able to look forward to retirement instead of dread it. So I had a friend who had been in real estate for a long time, and had a team and proposed that there was lots of leads to give. So I came on board, and I was given the amount of leads that I was promised. And
That's rare. It's rare that you actually get that, because a lot of times when you do jump onto a team, people promise you things and then you don't get it, which is a pitfall for a lot of teams, because teams are ran however the person that's running them is doing. So they can sell you on the idea and it may not be exactly what you think.
Yeah, and each one is different from the next. And I know a lot of the people, almost everybody that was on the team before me, and everyone had varying degrees of success. So that gave me an indication that my success level was going to be dependent on me. And maybe some people don't look that deep into it. I analyze everything. I'm definitely a critical thinker to a fault, sometimes guilty of overanalyzing things.
No.
But at any rate, I just looked at the numbers. I looked at the writing on the wall. And so anytime a lead would come by, I would call it within seconds of receiving it, because I understand that sometimes people will deal with the first person that they get in touch with. So I wanted to make sure that I was always the first person that this potential client got in touch with. That's critical. And some bad agents do good business just because they're the first one to show up.
I think a lot of real estate is just showing up and being the first person to touch the person, not in a weird way. Being able to be the first phone call. So if you put something through and immediately you get a phone call back, it's very like if you call Amazon and you're like, oh, I'm going to call their customer service, you expect to be on hold.
Yeah.
So it's beating the expectation.
Right.
So if they figure that if you could beat the expectation on contacting them, all of a sudden you have a leg up because you probably really care and know what you're talking about if you're the first one to talk to them.
Well, and it displays responsiveness.
Yeah.
And they have no frame of reference to compare you to someone good or bad. Personally, I prefer someone that has spoken to a few other agents so that they can have a frame of reference of quality, experience level, personality. But hey, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth if I'm just the first one that connects with them, and that's the sole reason that I get it. But in the end, they'll stay and be satisfied with their experience because of the value and the quality that we bring to the table.
I'm the opposite. I like to be the first person to be like, don't ever talk to anybody else again, because I don't want them to know how little I know sometimes. So as far as taking that, so you started out, you joined a team. You were given the amount of leads that you were given.
Yes.
So for somebody that is starting out, like, what's the first thing you would say to do? So your path is a little bit different than maybe other people would be, because I'm assuming somebody that's watching this is taking the time. You might be ready to jump off the real estate bridge if you're watching this right now. And if we could throw somebody one lifeline to get started, what would you say to be?
The simple thing is, let's pretend you have no leads. You're not on a team. You're an independent agent. You could be a seasoned agent whose business tapered off. And, I'm seeing it left and right. People that have been doing this for decades are now leaving the industry altogether and taking up full-time jobs completely unrelated to real estate. So people's business can ebb and flow for a variety of reasons. It could be economic conditions that we can't control. Sometimes it's just our attitudes. From personal experience, there's times where I wake up and I could have just closed out 10 settlements in a week. And now I look at my workload and I'm like, man, I have nothing going on. And I start to panic on the inside. It's the type A personality that wiring of an overachiever. And I'll panic for a couple hours. And then by the end of the day, I've got multiple deals under contract. Maybe that was in response to that panic, that fight or flight kicks in. But to go back to your original question of, what's a tidbit for someone that, might be struggling right now, is you have leads right here. You've probably got thousands of leads in there.
I'm going to push back on this a minute, because yes, I got 1,000 contacts. You tell somebody brand new, because I was told this when I started. Not by the people I was working. I was actually trained very well when I started, but people are always like, when you ask other successful agents, what do you do for leads? And they give you what I felt was an insincere answer. They're like, well, I knock on doors, I go to open houses, and I use my phone as my contact list, and that's how I get all my business. And I look at them and there is some truth to that, because you definitely can, all those things are viable. Like if you go to enough open houses, you're going to meet enough people. You're going to have the conversations, but there's a difference between just having a conversation with somebody and then a productive conversation with somebody. The same thing with working your phone. Like you'd be like, hey, here's my phone. Here's everybody that's in it. How would you reach out to them and not being a weirdo? Like the people you've talked to 20 years ago that you have in your phone that you don't have any reason to talk to again, how would you reach out to them?
So the most important thing is you need a reason to call the person. It can't just come across like, hey, I just wanted to hear you breathe. And you just sit there and listen to each other breathe. There's got to be some...
Have you tried that though? Because it might work.
There are some people that are into that. My ASMR channel on Only Tans. Podcast name, Only Tans.
See, but you're cutting me out.
Sometimes tan.
Tan and pale. Pale ale?
Tan man and tomfoolery. Oh, that rolls off the tongue.
No, it doesn't. No, it's bad.
Say it.
That's bad.
Say
No, it's bad.
Tan man and tomfoolery.
That's bad. But back to, so somebody gives you the phone. So I'm a brand new agent. I'm like, Omar, I need your help. You're like, oh, Tom, pull your phone out. There's all your leads. That doesn't help me at all, because I think a lot of people look at that and they're like, it's insincere. It's kind of writing them off. Same thing with like the open houses. Like you have to teach people how to do it and how to do it right.
Well, sure. There is a logical progression to it. Well, let me ask you this: if somebody called you out of the blue, what would turn you off and what would engage you? You're someone just
So to me, I mean,
I'm someone you went to high school with. I haven't talked to you in decades.
you have to ask them something about themselves or compliment them or notice something about themselves. Now, the cool thing about the age that we live in and being able to keep in touch with people without ever actually talking to them is that you can be friends with somebody in high school and never ever talk to them, and they get to 60 years old and they die, and you feel like you lost a friend, but you never talked to them the whole way through. Mm-hmm. You know everything that happened to them, their kids, their family, because they post stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, normally it's the highlight reel. But what's cool about the highlight reel is you get to see the ups for what people are doing. Mm-hmm. I like somebody that takes an honest look at something I did. So if I post something like if me and my wife went away for a weekend and somebody's like, oh, I was there, you should check out this restaurant. Awesome. That's a really cool way in.
They added value.
Like they see that I did something. They looked at personally what I did. They actually took a little bit of time to look. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, did you try this restaurant? No. Try this out next time you're up there.
And that they put you first.
And they lead with you.
So that's a critical piece of the direction of diving into contacts on your phone. You have to have a reason that you're reaching out to the person. And it does have to be something sincere about that person. And sometimes, you know what, hey, like I haven't talked to you in a really long while. I was just thinking about you. How have you been? What's going on? Like just find out about them. But it has to be real.
That's the biggest thing you just said. I don't mean to cut you off, but like the sincerity part. Mm-hmm. You can't fake, in real estate, you can't fake caring about somebody.
Right. And if you do, it will be spotted from a mile away, and you will shoot yourself in the foot.
Not everybody. I mean, like, because some people really don't care. They're like, well, this person's going to get me X number of dollars, which we still do. But you really want that. You're going to spend a lot of time with these people.
Sure.
So you want to like the people you're working with.
Yeah, I take this back to my personal training days. You know, I would have clients that would train with me 3, 4, 5 hours a week, one-on-one. And, you know, you can't help but really get to know people on a pretty deep level. You know, psychologically, you develop like true, caring relationships with people because you just, so maybe that was a natural segue into why real estate came so natural. In that it's like it was just the environment that I was in that you just really got to know people, and me being the personal trainer, I was the one leading the sessions, and there is like, I don't want to say an entertainment factor, but you don't want people just sitting there in silence, but you can't just sit there rambling on and on like a nervous person that can't stand the sound of silence either. So having just real conversations with people while we're doing it created like great engagement where the people enjoyed, and my retention was great as a result of it because I would ask them about them. I wouldn't just sit there and talk about myself in the context of it.
It's the most important thing, is being able to point out the person and feel the pain that they're feeling. Because the reality is nobody in your phone wants to go through the process of buying a house. They don't want to sell their house. They don't want to buy their house. They want what the benefit is for what they're getting from that. So if you're wanting to buy a new house, you want to be able to host family gatherings. You want your kids to grow up in a spot. You want the pool or the space or the reason to have a bigger house to expand your family, mm-hmm. to have a bathroom that you're not sharing with 100 people. You want that. You don't want the new house. You don't want to go through the process of being like, oh, I need a realtor, because you want to make that process as easy as possible. So I guess we're kind of getting off track on this, but I do want to make it like, at least for this episode, we focus on like one thing to try to help people. Mm-hmm. So, you've done a ton of open houses. You've done a ton of networking and connections. Walk people through on a process as far as what you would think. Brand new agent. I'm a brand new agent. Mm-hmm. Never worked before. And you're like, Tom, I'm going to give you a secret here. And as an agent that's been very highly ranked in New Jersey for the last 5 or 6 years that you've been solo or having a team, mm-hmm. since we started.
Sure.
What would be something that you would say? And I know what you're going to say because we were on the team, but like, make it for everybody.
The biggest thing, no matter what you are, solo agent, on a team leader, honestly, it applies to everybody, is make connections with people. Connect on an emotional level with people. A little backstory into me, I know nothing about sports, and that was always a little bit of an Achilles heel for me, in that, I always felt that how could I possibly relate to the majority of males in the United States when we're such a sports obsessed nation.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so I took it upon myself, and this is long before real estate, to find alternate ways of connecting with people outside of sports. And a lot of it involved just asking questions about people. I always had a natural curiosity of those around me, especially someone I'm meeting for the first time. Like, I just want to peel back the layers and, what are you into? And a lot of times people are into a lot of the same things that they just don't talk about it. It's easy sports is always the number one go-to for most people, and us being in the Philadelphia suburbs, we're such a sports obsessed region, in the multi-state area. So finding other ways to connect with people, and again, this has nothing to do with sales, nothing to do with real estate or anything like that. This is just making connections with people. When people feel comfortable.
Yeah, so I guess digging into that, making people feel comfortable, what's some tangible stuff? I want to give somebody something to walk away with on this. So if we go into it and you say, you acknowledge something I do or something about a person. Mm-hmm. When you go up to them, you meet them at a networking event, give them a compliment on something that they chose or they're thinking or they're doing or they're branding or whatever they see about them that you legitimately mean. You can't fake it.
Right. It has to be real. It has to be sincere. And that's a critical component of everything that we're talking about here today. If somebody has a nice watch on, okay, I'm into watches. If someone's wearing a nice watch, chances are they're into watches.
So maybe we should take if you're starting out, maybe take an audit of what are the 5 things that you really are into about your. It could be family, it could be beliefs, it could be hobbies, it could be just weird interests. Make those your personality, because that's really who you are. You're not just an agent.
Sure.
You're an agent who likes watches. Mm-hmm. We like cigars. We like whiskey. Those kind of things. So if all things are considered, you want to work with people who are also in your lane.
Yeah.
Right?
And most people have roughly 5 things that they're kind of into to some degree, give or take. And if you're having a conversation with someone, there's a good chance it's not like you're just a one-trick pony. Even if you think you are, you're really not. There's usually several things that you have an interest in.
I am one trick, though. Yeah. The only trick that I have is I get up every morning at 2 a.m. and I hustle. Because hustle culture is what makes it happen.
Do you rise and grind?
Every day. I then fall asleep and go to sleep. Once I wake up, rise and grind, and make sure I post it. You got to post it, otherwise it didn't happen. You go to the gym, you post in front of the workouts, and then you go home.
That's right.
And then I post about how motivating it was.
Morning motivations are important.
They are.
You should only be more motivated in the morning.
Wow.
Especially on Mondays. Monday morning motivation.
That's what we should call this podcast.
Yes.
The Monday, because I think everybody would click on that, right? Because nobody's ever heard that before.
Yeah. No, never. Or if we should call it mourning, like I'm in mourning, like mourning the death.
I mean, if they're still listening, they are in mourning right now. Trust me.
Morning motivation.
That actually is not bad. Nobody's going to listen to that because who wants to be in pain? But that is actually good.
But everybody relates to it. We're all hurting a little inside, some more than others. This is a cry for help.
Blink twice if you're in pain or in trouble. So acknowledging something about somebody and having those 5 tangible things that you're about, that way you go up and you make an authentic connection with somebody. Mm-hmm. And then the compliment of complimenting something that they've done, and then asking them about them or how they've gotten there. That develops, because everybody's favorite word in the English language is their own name. Everybody loves to hear their own name. If you say, if they're oh, Tom, if somebody calls you by name, I mean, it's monotonous. But if somebody calls you by your name or remembers your name and you didn't expect them to, you're oh man, this person's really together. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if you've ever been in a CEO position where they remember the janitor's names, it means a lot.
Yeah.
It really
it's
does.
A sign of respect.
And when people feel respected and heard, they are much more willing to trust you. Because that whole know, like, and trust thing, they have to know you, like you, and trust you to do business with you. So it's really, how do you develop this authentic connection with people, right?
Yeah. And I hear people say all the time, we actually had so much in common. It makes them feel comfortable and relatable and like somebody gets them. So again, go back to those things that you're genuinely, sincerely in.
You told me how tan I was when you met me, and then you were like, Tom,
I mean, you like cats.
I
and
do.
don't,
I
so
do. No, I'm a cat
can't-
guy.
Yeah. I can make fun of you for liking cats.
You did make and maybe we could post it in here, but the Tom Cat City, which is funny. But go ahead. I didn't mean to derail you there.
No, I mean, that was essentially it, is just making connections with people. And, going back to the root question of, okay, I'm a brand new realtor and I don't have any leads, and, how do I talk to people? In the background, people should know what you do. The one thing you don't want to do is just be that salesy salesperson and just jam business cards down people's throats. That is a very fast and easy way to sour people's attitude on you, because then they're going to feel like you're looking at them as just a potential commission, and that's not going to. No one's ever been successful in that manner.
I mean, people are successful, but they're just not as successful as they could be. And also, the kind of person you're going to draw in with that is like, you want to attract the people that you want to work with.
Sure.
Like I was saying, like, real estate is a job where you cram a lot of time into hanging out with somebody. Mm-hmm. You're with them, and then you're doing it's stressful.
Sure, you're in the trenches with them.
It's a stressful spot. Like, somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to move my life to here, and I'm trusting you to help me with this process. It is a stressful thing and it's a lot of responsibility to lead them through the right path, because
It's a big deal.
and no matter what, like, you can't choose the house, but you can just give them all the information that they need to make the proper decision that they would need. Because we can't say we live in a house or wouldn't live in a house.
Sure.
We just want them to know, like, anything you need to make this decision, let us know.
And that's where, again, digging deep and not just asking questions, but paying attention. For example, if I'm talking to somebody for the first time, I have no back history on them, I'm doing an initial consultation. What are the common questions? Where do you want to live? What township do you want to be in?
Sweet.
How many square feet? Bedrooms, bathrooms? Do you want a garage? Do you want a basement? Just like the normal stuff. And people might say, oh, well, the most important thing is the kitchen. And then I take them through houses, and they're not really paying much attention in kitchens, but they're more focused on master bathroom, the backyard, like other features you see them focusing on. Well, then I need to reassess and look at, okay, not just what did they say, but what do their actions dictate? If I see someone focusing on other factors of a house, other features different from what they initially told me, I need to course correct and maybe start showing them more of what their actions are pointing to, not necessarily just their words. Or as a bare minimum, open up a conversation with them to make sure that I'm pointing them in the right direction as far as houses that we're going out and seeing. With limited inventory these days, you need to get out to houses like the day that they hit market, or else you risk losing out on them. So if you're wasting time showing the wrong product for that client, like you're doing them a disservice.
So with clients, what do you think is so people are going to Google, and I just Googled the list. I was like, 10 questions to ask a real estate agent. So when people come in, they're going to try to find a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. What do you think the most worthless question that they can ask? And then what do you think some of the best questions that they would ask are?
The most worthless is, how long have you been licensed? Can we make the list?
Yeah, so it did. So I'm going to give you, do you want to try to go through and be like, because this is 10 questions to ask, and not all of them are dumb questions. It's just dumb people.
Just 10 questions, period.
It's not dumb questions, it's dumb people. So it's not, so the question of how long you've been licensed is worthless, because it doesn't matter if you're licensed for 6 months or 30 years. If their job is to help you get what you want. Mm-hmm. It's not, hey, I've been doing this for a long time, because you're not hiring. You're not doing a resume build here. You want to find out, does this person really care? Because when I first started, the only thing I could do was care. And the only thing I could do was I had to ask a question every single time. Like the guy who I started under, Mike, fantastic. But I would call him literally for every step of the transaction. And then I would just pretend that I knew the answer. But I always had it in my background. I wasn't going to tell them something and then lie to them. So the timing question doesn't matter. Also, I mean, this has something to do with it, but the amount of homes that you sell in a year, it doesn't make you a good or a bad agent, because real estate is funny. The whole industry, I've never seen people celebrate themselves like real estate agents do. we buy our own awards, we celebrate ourselves, and then we post that up, and then we put it on magazines and tell people how great we are of how many houses we sold. Now, granted, it is a great thing. We should be celebrating.
Sure.
It's not to knock people who are busy. It's just that, like, imagine a plumber that every week they go in and they snake toilets. Imagine at the end of the week they were like, you know what? I snaked 4 toilets this week. I'm celebrating. It's celebration time. I'm not even going to worry about working on Friday. And that's kind of the mentality that a lot of people think about real estate, because like it's becoming a field where people look at it and they kind of look down because is the bar high enough to get into it? And I think yes and no. I do think it's not easy to get into, but also there's a lot of people that just don't know how to run the business.
True.
Side of it.
So obviously it's no secret how to get your real estate license. You got to go to school, you got to pass a school test, and then you have to take a state test. There are people that are great test takers that lack critical thinking and people skills. Those people will easily get their licenses and be a horrible realtor. There's other agents that I know that are tremendous agents that failed the first 5 times. Because taking a test is taking a test.
It doesn't matter.
It's straight memorization. So getting your license is not an indication of being a good or bad agent, and failing the real estate exam 5 times before passing is also not an indication of how good of an agent that you are going to be. So the test itself is a terrible litmus test. I don't know if you came out and said it, but you alluded to it that you felt, is the bar too low? That's a people question.
Because when you say is the bar too low, what everybody hears is like, oh, we just got to do more CE credits and just do more, put more funds and put more fees in there. Let's make it $10,000 a year to be an agent. Then you got to pay to do your business. You're still going to have people that have money that are dumb doing this job.
It won't weed them out entirely.
It'll just put more roadblocks in and more money to give to whoever. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on with the boards and the real estate commissions and things like that now. So it's very tough to figure out exactly what the best solution would be.
I think mentorships, like mandatory mentorships, would probably be a.
How would you make sure that the mentor can do it? And there's only one way to do it, and it's to run your business the way you can. Because if you think about it like any other business, if you have a gym and you open the gym and you want to run it, you want to go in there and you want to flyer everybody's car in every parking lot.
Mm-hmm. Who would do that?
Nobody would do that. It's not a great way to advertise.
Yeah,
but if you wanted to flyer everybody's car and the other person didn't want to, and they just, when they walk in, their thing was they rip on you if you're not in shape. Or, I mean, there's a whole gym industry of an alarm that goes off if you actually try to get in shape. So it's really like you can run your business however you want to. It's really being cognizant to see, like, I don't think the general public knows how to pick an agent. I think they're like, oh, I'm going to go with my aunt's friend's daughter who just got licensed. I'm going to help her out, which is cool. You're helping somebody out. She might be great, but...
Or she might not be.
She might not.
You don't know. It's a big what if and a big variable, and that's something that I've seen this happen where somebody, through the kindness of their heart, wanted to support somebody just getting started. And this isn't a one-time story. I mean, this story has been replicated probably tens of thousands of times throughout the industry, where they want to support somebody new. They want to do a solid to somebody that they care about, and that person's just not good at their job. Well, now Thanksgiving dinner is really awkward when there's all sorts of problems.
Thanksgiving
after
dinner's
the
awkward
fact.
anyway. You always get the kids' table, and you're like the one adult that gets to go to the kids' table.
But the flip side can be true, where that person could be just a ringer from day one. They're just programmed right. So ultimately, it comes down to the personality. And yes, experience in theory should make you better, but like an athlete that practices improper form and technique, like you could practice bad habits, and there's agents that do that as well. So all of the shortfalls that encompass anybody encompass realtors as well. So how do you know you're getting someone that's good? I think
so let's kind of go on that. So what questions should people ask to make sure that they're getting an agent that, number one, they vibe with, and also that they feel is going to do a good job? Like, what are some good questions that people should ask?
I think back to interviewing somebody. If you just ask people like yes, no questions, people are always, you're just giving them A/B situations. It's very easy to say the right answer, whether you believe it or not, because you know what the person's going to want to hear. Instead, I would use questions along the lines of, give me an example of a situation of X, Y, Z. When someone has a vanilla transaction where everything's just going great, it's like a parent having a good kid. You never really had to get into tough love and have the difficult situations of being a parent. And that's the experience of a lot of agents where they had everything going smooth. Well, what I want to know is...
That was COVID. That was all COVID.
Yeah.
People, they got in the industry and it was fine. And now you're seeing, everybody's leaving.
Yeah, they never had to work through any actual problems. So what I would want to know is, tell me about a time of like a significant problem that arose and how you handled it and made it better. I think that's a great question, because now you're opening up a dialogue. It's not just, did you do X? How many times have you done Y? Like, those are a child could answer those questions with the right answers. They're useless questions.
You're thinking like what and how questions to ask people.
Yeah, like situational questions, like dialogues, things that, are like the response is going to be more of like an essay type question. So providing examples, of challenging situations. I don't want to hear about all the easy ones. Maybe was there something that you did behind the scenes that made something that could have gotten derailed and you got it back on track? Those are the things that, I think show the most value, because when I look at other agents that I co-op with, if I had a vanilla transaction where there were just no speed bumps, I don't really know what the agent was made of. But the agents that have impressed me the most was when something did arise, some sort of problem arose, and I saw them handle it just like a champ. They didn't get rocked, they didn't get phased, and their response to me was, "Hey, how can we work through this?" Like that teamwork mentality. Instead of me against you, no, it's me with you, because even though we represent opposite sides of the contract, we're still working towards the same goal.
That's the biggest thing. Is like when you sign in with a contract and you're co-oping with another agent, you're actually working with that agent.
Yes.
You're not
against.
You're not
with.
adversarial. You should be working together with them. And a lot of times, like through the first 3 or 4 years of doing this, I found that a lot of people like felt like it was like a competition, or they had to like one up you, or they would try to like talk down to you for whatever reason. Like if you're the new agent, you're just starting out, I don't have a ton on my resume, they talk down to me a little bit. It's not a great spot to be. And when you don't know any better, you almost are forced to take that too, or you lash out and you don't know what you're talking about and lashing out with. So let's see, what else do we have on here? So as far as the questions, give me 3 questions. So you're advising your mom. She's going to go and she's going to purchase a house. She's going to interview agents. You have no idea who they are. You're not going to recommend anybody. What are like 3 pointed questions that they should ask?
And
take your time and think. I'm putting you on the spot for it, but like, take your time. Think of like what you would think.
I don't want to know to like what extent they would be available for me. Like what are your hours? Is this someone that just, because that's a legitimate one. What are your hours? Because sometimes my hours may not coincide with your hours.
If I text you, when's the expectation on you telling me to get the information back? And if you communicate that well, like we talk about it all the time, but nobody goes crazy if it's the plan.
Yeah.
They expect that to be the plan. So if they're like, oh, I text Omar at 8 o'clock, he's going to get back to me tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Because everybody should set boundaries. Otherwise, people will step all over them. So what's your availability? What's something else you would say?
Another one that has been coming up a lot, and not as an issue for me, but more of something I brag about, having a team, is that if I'm ever out sick or on vacation, you're not left hanging high and dry, because I've got backup. I've got employees that will cover for me in the event that I'm unavailable. Obviously, vacations are usually planned, people have doctor's appointments, they have kids, they have just like social events. You do need to have a life at some point too. But let's say you're gone for an extended period, you're taking a 5-day vacation.
You should. Everybody that's an agent should take time for themselves.
Right.
You really should, because it can burn you out very quick if you don't control it.
And you need a plan in place for when you are away. So how is that handled if you could be in a car accident? Who's covering for you? With us on a team, that's built in. If you hire one of us, you're getting all of us. But not every agents are on team. And I'm not saying that an agent...
Not every team works that way either.
Right.
So every team has their own structure. So just because you work with one team doesn't mean that's how it should go. So you definitely want to have that ironed out when they come through. And
you should know what that agent's bandwidth is. I see some solo agents that do in excess of 100 deals a year. Can they handle more business? Are you going to be left to the wayside? Are you going to get lost in the shuffle? How high of a priority am I? And the agent really shouldn't take on business that they can't handle. I mean, you're going to have a disappointed client. That's a different
conversation altogether, because agents will take on anything they can get their hands on, and then they will fumble it because they don't have the bandwidth to control it.
Right.
Because they didn't build the base of the business. Like they're trying to just running. It's like a ship that's rocking back and forth, and they're just running from one side of the ship to the other as like, oh, I have a bunch of deals, I have to do all this, and then their prospecting goes way down. Now they got to prospect everything, and they have no sales, and it just keeps going back and forth.
And those are those drastic ebbs and flows in a person's business, and I've certainly been through it more times than I would like. But you course correct with it too to make sure that it's more of this versus the highs, the lows, the highs and the lows. It shouldn't look like a sine wave.
And something I like to do and implement whenever I do like a listing appointment or a buyer consultation is we have the couple questions that they should ask. The agent should also ask some questions of the person they're working with, because what are their expectations? So like asking them kind of a nice what question is like, what are your realistic expectations of what's going to happen with this house search? How do you think it's going to go? What do you want to happen? And if they're like, oh, I want to do this in 3 to 6 months, that's a very different client than somebody who I need to move in 30 days. So asking and getting their expectations, because if they're like, oh, I expect this to be easy, you can hit them with some knowledge and let them know.
Ooh, define easy.
Yeah, well, it ain't easy. It's very rarely easy to do. So we're going to get more into this as we go. But this is kind of a good jumping off point, because we'll see if anybody even cares or gets to this point, because I'm going to look at all the numbers.
Yeah.
And we'll see if there's 3 people that make it to this point. But if you did, you're in for a treat, because we got something. It's a segment that I'm going to do because I wanted to break down segments. It's called What Really Pisses Me Off This Week. I'm going to give you a second to think about it.
You're asking me.
I'm going to give you a second to think. I have something too, and I'm not trying to just put that on you.
Are you asking?
You didn't know that was coming?
Are you asking me what pisses me off?
Yeah, like it could
or
be anything.
Are you asking me what pisses you off?
Well, you know what pisses me off. But it can be anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be real estate related. We obviously want it to tie in with that.
Yeah.
But something that you see bothers you, just a
Does
random
it have to be
thought.
real estate related?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be anything. And there's 3 people still here.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be anything.
I've got a clear and crystal one that just happened over the weekend.
Give me it.
So I went to dinner with my family, and this restaurant has a smaller parking lot, and it's a popular restaurant. And we pull in, so there's nowhere to park, except there is I would say it's teetering on a compact car that is straddling 2 parking spots. So now this compact car, which has more than enough room to park wherever they desired, took 2 parking spots. And not only did they straddle 2 parking spots, but they weren't all the way in, like up against the parking lot block. Like they were way much further back than they should have been. And that made it so that the parking spot that was across the lane, you couldn't get into because you couldn't pull in because it was sticking. It's not even fully inserted, if you will, into the parking spot. And I go into the restaurant, and my wife and I are just like steaming, like, who is this ass clown that took up 2 spots and made it so that you couldn't park even like opposite of it? And I'm like steaming. I'm like, how could somebody be so inconsiderate Like, you get out, you should realize, like, whoa, I got 5 feet to the line here. Just complete, like, is that person just that much of a jackass? Or are they that unaware? Are they that clueless? And then I start thinking, if the person's just that bad of a driver, that unaware, they shouldn't be driving. Or if the person's just that big of an asshole, they shouldn't be driving. I guess the moral of the story is this person shouldn't be behind the wheel, because I don't know what their motivation was. And then when I finally saw the person get into the car, because in the restaurant, my wife and I were making assumptions as to who the asshat would be that would do that.
Did you find him?
We both guessed the same person, and we were both wrong.
Really?
And it was
what did that guy do? Did he also do that to somebody else?
No, this person, if I looked at the car, the amount of people that the car could hold, and if I was just trying to be judgmental, my wife and I both misjudged the wrong party in the restaurant.
They're probably guilty too.
And then we walked out feeling bad because I'm like, damn, I just like judged somebody inappropriately. And the person who it was, because we saw this individual get in, this person shouldn't have been driving.
Okay.
That was more probably a safe assessment that the person, if I had to wager, their eyesight, their spatial awareness probably wasn't what it should be to continue driving. Then we end up both feeling bad that we're sitting here steaming about who we thought was this person, and it wasn't.
Well, I'll tell you who that person you probably thought it was is probably the same person that I'm thinking of. So there's something that I am completely out on, and I already know it's bumper stickers on a car. There's nothing I hate more. I don't care what the bumper sticker says. I hate bumper stickers. I know for a fact.
What if it says rise and grind?
I hate that even more.
How about morning motivation?
Morning motivation to rise and grind?
Yes.
Then I'm flattening the tires. But there's nothing that I know more than if you have a bumper sticker on your car that I don't want to talk to you. Have you ever met a bumper sticker person that's been awesome to talk to? You're like, oh, great, I saw your bumper sticker out. And actually, you have a full car that's almost a bumper sticker.
So how many
You have a wrapped car.
How many bumper stickers are we talking? Are we talking one or like a collection?
Well, start with one. If you have one on your car, you make poor decisions.
It's kind of like a tattoo.
I mean, no, it's not a tattoo. It's
How is it different than a tattoo?
You're giving opinions without asking for them. So
like a tattoo?
Like a tattoo, yeah. But I can cover up the tattoo. Your car is stuck with that bumper sticker, and whoever buys that from you is going to have to scrape it off.
Okay, fair enough.
You're doing more work for that. But whoever does it, I really hate I just can't stand it. They're giving opinions without you actually asking for them.
And they're defacing their car in the process.
They're defacing the car, and there's not a bumper sticker person I've ever met that I like. So I'm out on bumper sticker and bumper sticker people. And they're probably the same person that was in the restaurant that blocked you in. I bet you they had a bumper sticker.
No bumper sticker.
Well, maybe they should have put one on with the
It was a clean car. This person wasn't a bumper sticker type person.
So we're going to do some more stuff in the next week because we're committing to doing this right now. We're going to commit to at least 5 of these, even if nobody says anything. So anything you want to plug this week that's going on, that's coming up, that you're thinking about, or you got coming up, or you just saw on the internet?
Keep an eye out for new listings. We always have them coming in all areas. If you're looking for something, you can't find it, let me know, because we always have homes being renovated and always have homes coming to market soon.
So I'm going to go to something else. We have a speaking event tomorrow that you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
It's on social media. Yeah. So there's a speaking event. It's at a brewery. So if you're thirsty, which all realtors are thirsty, this is not going to come out.
This is going to air after the event.
So
which is why I didn't even.
Yeah, actually, so you know what?
Shame on you.
This segment really sucks because what's coming up this week, we're not releasing for a week, and then
that's a continuity error.
Yeah. Well,
you are incontinent.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed the first episode. We never came up with the name. We never locked in the name.
So what do we? Let's run through the contenders.
So House at Hangin is the best of what so we have a couple. I'm just going to go through them.
Yeah,
so
read through them.
Game of Homes, which I like. I did it. I've set it up before, but it's not really as timely. I was just trying to cash in on people that were looking at Game of Thrones and accidentally click on our shitty podcast. But For Sale by Omar, which would be great if it was just you in a car, but not for me and you to sit here.
Or what if it's like, in parentheses, and Tom?
Say, no, I'm out on that.
And you have to whisper it.
This is back to the Transformers belt all over again, which I'm out on.
It was Voltron. You're the belt. You held us together.
The pontificating real estate, I'm out. That's not great. House and Hangin, I think. That's the leader in the clubhouse. Or nobody cares about your real estate podcast, which is also, that's the one I came in with that I wanted to pitch. But we can decide on it, or we can leave it up to whoever makes it to this point to vote and to say, we'll just actually take their word for it.
Or how about you, the one person listening? If you look down, there's one view, and smash that like button.
No, you got to say what you want to hear. So, like, of those, we could put a poll if anybody wants a poll. If not, we're just going to make an executive decision and decide. But I think it's going to be between Game of Homes, House at Hangin', and Nobody Cares About Your Real Estate podcast.
Or don't listen to my shitty real estate podcast.
Yeah, well, nobody did. So, cool. Thank you, guys. That's it. We're done.